Cool. All right. Well, let me stop sharing my screen for a few minutes here. Um, cool. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. So thanks everybody who's here for joining. I'm glad that this was of interest to all of y'all. Um, so just a little bit of background on myself. My name is Taylor. I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been in the world of travel hacking and points and miles and all that since around like 2015 was when I'm like just barely was getting started into getting new credit cards, hitting the sign up bonuses, doing all that stuff. And I started like actually traveling a lot a few years after that. So I've done a lot of solo travel in Latin America primarily. Um, and obviously, I was typically flying for free all the time, just using points to fly. Um, and also doing a lot of like couch surfing and stuff like that, just to cheap traveling around. Um, I first learned what manufactured spending was at the end of 2018. I stumbled across some Facebook groups and started reading all this stuff. Initially, of course, I had no idea what I was reading and didn't really understand it. Um, but it caught my attention, and then throughout basically the entirety of 2019 and the majority of 2020 as well, I was doing buying group stuff, Visa gift cards and money orders, and then primarily buying like third-party gift cards at grocery store promotions as well as some online deals and reselling those to get points. So I did it for about a year and a half. And then in April of 2020 was when I actually started QCGC. So I decided to go ahead and start my own, gift card buying group essentially, give people the opportunity to buy gift cards from promotions and sell them to me in order to earn points. And I started finding my own, direct customers for gift cards as well. So it just started out as a, simple WhatsApp group. Um, and then of course at one point I, maxed out the number of members I could have in a WhatsApp group. It's like 257, which is kind of weird. I know they rolled out some like community thing now, which um, sort of allows for more people, but I reached that limit, and then I had to move over to Telegram, which, from what I understand, from what I read at one point, it's like you can have up to like 200,000 people in a in a group. So I was like, okay, well, let me just do that. Um, so anyway, and I've been doing that for past 3.5 years, and I guess it's been like the past two and a half that I've been doing it full time. So like gift card reselling is essentially my full time job now. I don't really have a normal job or another business outside of this one. I did for a while do some like electronics reselling and things like that, but I at one point decided to just pick pick one lane and then stick to that versus trying to do a bunch of different things all at once. So that's how I started and a little bit of the journey that's got me to where I am now. So obviously, at this point, we've got a little over 1,100 people in the QCGC Telegram group, I believe, and I'm just looking to continue to grow it as well as improve the user experience in whatever ways that I can. Um, so the onboarding course, which I'm about to cover, as well as doing Zoom calls on a regular basis, are just a couple ways that I plan on improving the user experience and making everything um, easier to engage in, and easier to learn and get educated on some of this stuff and how all of it works. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and start diving into some of this stuff. So really briefly, this is our website. This is the home page. We actually haven't had this up for too long. It's been pretty recent that we got this up. But this gives a general idea just of what it is that we do at QCGC and the benefit that we provide to people who are looking to earn more miles and points. So basically, the whole idea is everyone wants to get more miles, more points, more cash back, and be able to travel for free, or just make some extra money on the side. And the limitation typically is that you know you're limited to how much you're spending on an like every day just on your organic personal purchases. So The whole idea here is, there are promotions on gift cards at grocery stores, on online retail as well, where I know that I can buy cards at those rates that they're being offered at and resell them and, make a small margin for myself. And I just have to do a lot of volume for that to make sense and for it to be a viable business model. So this is basically crowdsourcing, just having a bunch of people all over the country help source the quantity of cards that myself and my company needs to be able to resell and at the rates that we need to get them at. Because typically there's, velocity limits with some of these promotions as well. So it might be, for a week at some grocery store, they're offering some gift card brand at a certain discount, but you can only buy $1,000 at a time. One person can't just walk in there and buy 100K of cards. So it requires having all these people help to essentially crowdsource the volume that we need. Yeah, so this is the home page. It gives some very basic information about how everything works. And for anybody who has either sold to us this year or has filled out this form, the application form on the website, everyone who's done that up to this point, I've added them to this onboarding course, which I'm about to show. But basically, you have to have done one of those two things, either sold to us this year or filled out this form, just because I have to actually have everyone's email address in order to add into the Google group that I use to grant people access to the onboarding material. So if you haven't sold to us already this year yet, then you could go and fill this out and that would give you access to it. So I'm going to jump right into this. The onboarding course is also pretty recent. I spent probably around 2.5 to 3 months on this. And in the midst of all the other work that I just do on a regular basis. So I definitely put a lot of time and effort into getting this ready. And I think that it provides a lot of value. It's really for everybody, but especially for people who are, just getting started with some of this stuff, because I know that it can feel a little overwhelming at first. And so having a comprehensive and detailed, guide and a roadmap and a course, I thought would be very helpful. So yeah, like I showed, once you're on the website itself, once you've been given access, you just click on onboarding and that gets you to this page. And if you want to go back to the website, you actually have to click back to home. If you just click this, it just stays here. It's basically a subdomain within the same website that we're using. But anyway, so there's 8 modules in this thing. The first one basically goes over like a high level overview of how everything works. There's a few different ways that you can actually, view that. So if you want, you can just click this link and it takes you to a slide deck, basically a Google Drive file. And you can just, look through this and it explains again, like a high level overview and a summary of how everything works. What is QCGC? Like how does gift card reselling work? For anyone who's had never heard of it before, a little bit of background on myself and the company, some stuff about how the business model works, how the gift card deals work, the brief content about the Telegram group and the submission sheet, which are 2 very important aspects to this, and then a visual representation of how the onboarding flow looks like right here. This would probably be the best way to review this first module, but I also have it just embedded in this website here. The only issue with this is the slides are kind of small. And you can't, well, I guess you can zoom in, but you can't just make it larger. I mean, I guess you could do this, so it's up to you. But it's the same thing, and I've also just got the text, written out here in case anyone wants to read it like that. But that's basically what the first module is just give a, super high level without getting into all the nitty-gritty details, how this works, kind of what the, I guess, mechanics behind it. are and, why someone would even participate in this. So once you've looked over that, and other thing too is some of y'all who have found QCGC through some of these events that I've been to this year, you might have already seen this. So it's up to you. You could just skip it or you could get a refresher and look through it again if you want. So after that, you can click down here and go to the second module, which is, all of them are here on the main onboarding page as well. So this one is just about how to actually, cool. Appreciate that, Molly. I'm glad you found it helpful. So yeah, this is the second module, just talks about how to actually use the Telegram group, which is where we send out all the deal notifications, and we also have the group chat in there. So that's basically the main hub for communication when people are dealing with us. So there's a few different sections of this module here. So there's individual like miniature guides, so to speak. So you could and it's broken up, so it's not just one big guide with a ton of information. It's a little bit easier to digest this way, I feel like. So, you could click on this. This opens up this like additional pop-up window here. And then you've got, this thing has 10 steps that you can go through with screenshots for each step, along with some, text with basic instructions, and just give a visual of typically how each of the deals are structured and highlighting each component of each deal. Stuff like that. Got some funny gifts down there at the end of most of these. Then some stuff about, the group chat. I won't go into all this stuff because I want to, get through this fairly quickly and make it concise. Yeah, basic stuff about using it on desktop. This one has 18 steps, a little bit more in depth, but this is about how to actually use the reservation sheets that we post. One thing I also want to mention to everybody is that this onboarding course it's not static and going to like stay the same way forever, because we are going to be constantly changing and improving how everything's set up to make it easier for people. So like one of the things I'm wanting to work on soon is actually building like an online portal for suppliers to use. So at some point, the way that this is all set up might change. So we might have, no longer Google Sheets, and there might just be reserved through the website, and this might look different, at which point I would update the course. Yeah, it just goes through all the stuff, all the different components, how all of it works. So that is that module. And we've got the third one, which is how to actually use the submission template sheet, which is what you would use to actually send gift cards to us. So with this module, like the previous one, there's a few different, sections in here. So first thing is just opening and making your own copy of the sheet, right? So you click on this link, which has the template itself. And then you've got these instructions here about how to actually, go about doing that. They're pretty brief. I think you can actually, yeah, you can actually click this, and it does this interesting thing where it pulls up the link, but you can also see the steps as you're looking at that too. So up to you if you want to utilize that as well. And you've got, sharing the submission sheet with us. Again, 4 steps, really quick, easy to digest and get through. And then finally, like getting your sheet essentially filled out and ready to be used, and having your payment info in there so that, we can pay you whenever we owe you money after you've sold gift cards to us. And some tips on keeping your Google account secure if you're storing bank information in there. Some useful links and resources there. And then, boom, you're done. Congratulations. Now you can move, on to the next one. So module 4 is about actually submitting gift cards once you have set up your sheet. So whenever we post a deal and you decide, hey, I'm going to participate in that deal, I'm going to go actually buy some cards and, start to get a little active in the group. then you've got these helpful guides here on how to actually submit cards. So you've got, which tab to go to in the sheet, what everything should look like, going through the different, columns and the different pieces of data that you need to actually enter into the spreadsheet. Also an example of an actual gift card. And this is a gift card that I got like 3 years ago. So it's been used for a long time, but shows, the gift card number, the PIN, all that stuff, and where to actually input that info, as well as, things like the percentage that you're filling the cards at, the submission date, and then also talks a little bit about some of the columns that we actually fill in. Our email collab still being a recorded form or acceptable. Trying to make sure I understand this question properly. Yes, for now, yes, until we actually build a web-based portal, like this can still work for now. So we're going to keep on using this until we actually get that built. And like I said, at that time, whenever we have some updates and we've, changed how we're doing stuff, then I will update this onboarding course so everybody knows how to operate, however we've got our system set up at any given point in time. But yeah, for now, this is still how we're doing it. We got all these steps here just to make sure that everybody knows exactly how it works. And even some troubleshooting stuff, because for example, I've had many people many times, come and ask, hey, like, why is the email collaborators option grayed out? And it's probably because you haven't shared the sheet with us, and that means there's no collaborators to email. So, just trying to have, troubleshoot issues before they arise. So it is important to actually go through and read all of these guides in their entirety so that you can see what some of the common errors are and how to prevent those proactively. So, yep, that's that. And there's some tips here, for example, on how to use, a barcode scanner, which if you're new, I mean, you could start out doing stuff manually the first couple of times just to get the hang of it, but basically using a barcode scanner is a way to increase both your efficiency and accuracy, because you can essentially scan. Actually, I think I might have a picture of it in this guide. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just waiting on the image to load, but there is an image here whenever it loads of the actual barcode on the back of the gift card, and you would just scan that with the barcode scanner, and this barcode corresponds to this gift card number, the long one. It doesn't include the PIN, but basically what you end up doing is you have a barcode scanner. A lot of them are USB, so it has a cord connected to the scanner itself, and the other end is USB. You plug that into your computer, and then you just click within the cell that you're actually going to put that info in, and then you just scan this, which corresponds to this number, and then it populates that cell with that number. So it saves you the time of having to type all that in. And if you're buying a lot of, a lot of cards, having to put all those into spreadsheet, that helps save a lot of time. It also helps to reduce errors, because one thing that happens semi-frequently as well is that people will, when they're typing this entire number in manually, and maybe they're submitting 20 gift cards at a time, there might be one in there where they have one digit that's off, which means if we sell the card and our customer goes to try to redeem it, it's going to show is invalid to them because it's an actual, like, it's not a real gift card number if one of the digits is off, right? So it helps both with efficiency and accuracy. And we have a video here of like how it actually works. So, you would just scan the barcode, then it populates that in the cell, and then you would just go and actually put the PIN number in there. So that's that. Also some some brief information on properly storing physical gift cards, and I might actually update this at some point later because I have some additional images and tips that I've gotten from people, but these are some photos that I've got from current group members of just their specific way of doing things. I'm not saying anything's like better or worse, whatever works for each person, as long as they are organized and can access those cards quickly, in case they need to go back to them at some point in the future. If it works, it works. But that definitely is an important piece of this, as well. So module 5 is one that I actually have thought about potentially like moving back and having it earlier in the course. So maybe having it like be number 2 instead of number 5. So like if somebody is super new to this, and they go through this one, they learn the high level overview and basics of how everything works. I'm just wondered if it might be helpful to have some actual examples of different deals be the very next thing they see before they get into, you know, the stuff with the Telegram group and the spreadsheets and everything. So I'm open to any feedback on that. Different brands have included data when scanning this guy. Sometimes include more digits. Matt, do you remember specific examples of which brands that applies to? And then Molly, it's not very often that we ask for info from like previously submitted cards, but it definitely happens. And we ask that whenever you submit a gift card that you keep it for up to a year, or for a full year after you actually submit it to us, in case there's any issues that come up during that time. It's very rare that issues come up, especially after like, the first couple months of a car being sold, because typically we sell it pretty quickly and it gets used pretty quickly. So it's really just to be on the safe side and be cautious, in case we need the card at some point in the future. For example, there was there there was one time I remember where a guy submitted a gift card to us. I think it was Amazon, and the card, ended up being invalid. And he basically like threw the card away after we had paid him for it because he thought, oh, well, I've already gotten paid, so I don't need to keep the card. And that ended up being a very messy situation because then the card was essentially useless. Our customer couldn't use it because something was off about it. It's probably a typo, but it showed as invalid to our customer. So it was essentially worthless at that point. But he had thrown it away because he assumed that he didn't need it anymore since he already got paid. So it is very important to keep the cards, for a full year or more after you sold them to us. Anyway, so yeah, module 5 gives some examples of different deals. Again, helpful especially for people who are just getting into this and who understand the high level concept, but are like, okay, so what's an actual example of a deal that could go on? Like which stores, is it from, which brands, what are the rates, how does the math work and all that. So this module, without going into like all of the details about each deal, just has, a few steps about each one, just like a basic intro, some basic math, to give an example, and then some stuff about the rates, the calculations, the reservation sheets, and also some links where you could go back and actually look through full articles of some of the different deals. So like that's the Kroger one. This is Meyer. So again, they're fairly concise. Same stuff with Dollar General, which those aren't super frequent, at least not deals that are very profitable and or scalable, but they do happen. Some of these online deals as well, some different examples there about, which websites typically have those deals. and some of the actual examples we've seen in the past, as far as well as the different rates and how the math works and all that stuff. And then finally, some examples of Amex offers, as well as Chase and City, and there's just some links that you can go back and see different Chase offers that have gone on. So yeah, that's that module. Just gives a brief insight into some examples of some of the deals without going too much into detail yet. Okay, yeah. So Matt's saying that brands like Best Buy and Home Depot, you can just scan the card, and it gives you exactly the data that you need. Whereas Lululemon and Sephora, as a couple examples, seems like they add extra digits on the front of the card that shouldn't actually be there. So you would need to, also just take a glance at what actually gets populated into your spreadsheet after you use that scanner compared to the number that's actually on the card, just to make sure that it's correct. And of course, once you get the hang of things and you get into a rhythm and um, if certain brands and certain cards require, um, different things, like if I don't know, a specific brand, you just scan and that's it, or if there's other ones where you have to actually make some adjustments later on, you kind of get the hang of things. So module 6 is just, to cover all the different legal things, all the different rules. And I know it's, kind of boring, and typically people don't like to read the full terms and conditions and stuff. However, it is very important. And anyone who participates in the group, like, we're gonna assume that you read this and hold you to it. So it's basically the full terms and conditions of of doing business with QCGC and what is expected from you as a supplier. So for example, we got this first part talking about maintaining or retaining the physical gift cards along with their receipts for 365 days after selling them to us. And also that the cards need to be firsthand and unused rather than, cards that have been partially used or that you got, I don't know, from that you bought off of some secondhand gift card website or anything like that. Um, and yeah, really just anything that we are gonna, any rules that we're gonna expect you as a supplier to follow here. So I won't go through all this. I'll let each person go through this, on their own time. But this basically just goes into detail about what all the expectations and all the rules are with that. Now, I really like this module, and I did think that it was necessary and that it would be very beneficial, especially for newcomers to this who, again, like the idea, have a general grasp on the concept of gift card reselling and how it all works. But a lot of times it's hard to get started and it can feel overwhelming, seeing all these deals come through, not really knowing which ones to participate in, which ones not to do, and determining which ones are relevant. So I typically, recommend for people to start out small and, even, you know, potentially like just kind of be in the group for a few weeks and observe what's going on without jumping in too quickly. Obviously, if you do want to jump in quickly and you feel comfortable with that, go ahead. But I know that's not the case for everybody. So, it's totally valid and acceptable to just kind of observe what's going on, lurk around for a little bit, for a few weeks. And then once you feel like you have a good general understanding of how everything works, actually take action and do something and participate in the deal. Because otherwise it's very easy to just get stuck kind of being in the group without doing anything and having the general intention of at some point participating and actually taking some action and then never doing it, right? Now, this obviously is assuming that you actually feel comfortable participating in this, because I know everyone's risk tolerance, is going to be different as well. This is just more for people who are like, yep, they've decided they definitely want to do it, and they're just figuring out, or they're trying to figure out the best way to get started. So, you know, like I wrote here, start simple, find one deal that you want to participate in as your first deal. Ideally, something that is low spend, right? So not going out and spending $5,000 all at once. Maybe something like a single $100 gift card or $50 gift card, something really small like that, a small commitment, and something that's also simple and easy to understand. So, for example, and I'm actually going to go back to part of this. Um, with one of these online deals, like one that I've seen before is PayPal digital gifts will sometimes offer certain gift cards just at a straight discount. So I've seen, Carter's $50 gift card for $40. I think I've seen Adidas also from them. And I know in the past at certain times we've bought those gift cards at 82% of face value, which for a $50 gift card is 41 bucks. So you'd buy a gift card for $40, that's worth 50. You'd sell it to us for 41. So you'd make, on the front end, you would make $1 and you would get, however many credit card points you get for spending 40 bucks. So if you have a 2% card, you would make um like 80 cents, I guess. Um, but that one's a very, low commitment, low spend, easy to understand deal that enables you to actually get started and start taking some action, very seamlessly, versus other deals like Kroger or Meyer, where instead of there being a straight discount on the gift card, you've got some kind of rebate involved. With Kroger, it's in the form of fuel points. So you're basically buying gift cards at face value, not at a discount, but you're getting these fuel points along with it that you can sell as a combo deal, and that ends up making it, worthwhile. And you're selling the gift cards and the fuel points both at a discount, but together, and you're near break even. Um, that might not be the best deal to start with, because you want to make sure that you understand the mechanics of how everything works. So something like this example mentioned here would be really easy. Um, and there's also just, these lists here um, of different physical retailers that typically we see deals from, as well as some online retailers as well. And the rest of this is, just basic mindset stuff of how to actually approach everything with this, and how to actually get started and do it in a way that's comfortable and it's optimal for you. Finally, we've got the 8th module, which contains, and I'm going to read okay, Matt responded to Molly and was saying that he personally keeps cards for multiple years, not just for whoever he's selling to, but also for tax purposes. I feel like it's always better to be, safe than sorry and do more than you think is necessary. But as far as for us, you know, the requirement is to keep them for a year. After that, it's up to you what you want to do. Yeah, this final module is or contains in-depth guides for each type of deal. Obviously, most of them I haven't done. I initially wanted to just get this thing published and ready. I went ahead and did 3 that I, felt like I had good enough knowledge of to actually be able to make a guide for them. But the rest of these I'm going to add over time, and I'm probably going to also, just take advantage of some of the specialized knowledge that some of our group members have who actually live in these areas and, who know all the ins and outs of each of these deals. Because, for example, like, I mean, I don't live anywhere near Market Basket or Giant Eagle, Safeway. So there's people in the group who do, who know a lot more than I do, as far as all the nitty gritty details about some of these deals. So I definitely will take advantage of the collective knowledge of the group to put some of these together. And I can always add options that aren't currently listed here. If anybody sees something that's like, hey, yeah, you need to add a guide for a certain type of deal that's not already listed, I'm definitely open to that. I've also thought about at some point maybe even having some kind of, I don't know, form or feedback system where people can give suggestions for the onboarding course in general. I'll just pop really briefly into these guides that I have set up already. So this is the Kroger guide. It goes fairly in depth about everything with Kroger. It's got, a list of all their different affiliates, which, all these companies are essentially owned by Kroger now. So if you live near any of these, you could participate in these deals. There's also Harris Teeter, which is not on that list, but is a Kroger affiliate. Um, and this goes through an example of a deal, basically breaks down how the math works, some hypothetical examples. And I mean, in some cases, some of these examples have actually been true in the past. We actually have posted deals at these rates, but as mentioned here and a few other places, the rates for both gift cards and fuel points fluctuate on a consistent basis, just depending on supply and demand in the market. So, the article here you can read on Gift Card Galore. It talks about some more details um, with the Forex promos from Kroger, as well as shows like the dates of times in the past when they've had that same promotion. You got some math here, goes starts to go in depth a little bit, and then some summary of what was mentioned here. So stuff about the process of just making the Kroger account, reserving capacity, actually going to Kroger and purchasing the card. There's also oh, okay, I need to fix that. I don't know why it's restricted there because the other one I had in I guess it was the fourth module, but the barcode scanner was fine embedded in this. I don't know what the deal is. But anyway, you can click on Kroger and watch it. Actually, a friend of mine put this together for me. It's not me talking in it, but he basically just shows, the actual process of going and checking out a gift card at self-checkout, which is pretty simple and fairly self-explanatory. It's nothing super complex, but still can be helpful to give people a visual of how it's actually done. Some tips here, some important notes that you can check out later. Some stuff about filling out your submission spreadsheet, which again, there's already a module on that. Best practices by credit card issuer, some buying limits by brand, and there's probably more brands that we need to add to this, and potentially even at times there might be things that change with this that we'll have to update. So it's always possible that at some point in time we could have info here or any of these guides that might be out of date if something changes that we need to actually update. So sorry about that. And there might be times when I catch that stuff, but it's always appreciated as well if someone in the group sees something and gives me feedback, so I know if there's something that needs to be updated. And some basic FAQ for the regular deals. And then similar setup for Giant Food and for Meyer. And each type of deal, along with each retailer and each store typically has unique nuances to it, to each option. So I think it would be very helpful for each person to actually to go through each of these guides for any of the deals that you actually can, participate in. So again, and here's Meyer just really quickly. I won't spend too much time on that, but similar setup. So that's it. That concludes all the modules in the onboarding course, and you can click this button to just go back to the main like menu itself. So yeah, in addition to that, I am looking to start doing some more Zoom calls on a regular basis, covering different topics that are of interest to people, as well as having general Q&As and just giving people the ability to ask questions like live on the call if they want. So I'm gonna go ahead and review the chat, and I'm gonna also just open it up afterwards to general Q&A if anyone has any questions. And yeah, so the group chat in Telegram is definitely a very important tool to use because, like Matt mentioned here, risk is definitely a part of this as well that you need to be aware of. And like I mentioned, each type of deal is going to have different nuances, not only with participating in the deal, but also with avoiding risk. Um, so yeah, utilizing the group chat and taking advantage of the collective knowledge and experiences and data points of the rest of the group is going to be very helpful. So you're not just doing everything yourself and relying on trial and error and um, making mistakes that you might not want to make that someone else could warn you about. Yeah, Christy, like Michael put right there, like that's the website. I mean, this is basically this URL here is just a Google site that I have set up. But if you just type in this, if you do onboarding.qcgc.io, and you've already been given access to it by either having sold to us this year or filling out the application form on the main website, then you'll be able to see this. If you don't have access yet and you try to look at it, I believe it just pulls up like a 404 error, like it just doesn't show anything. But like I said, if you don't have access to it yet, you can just click on this and you can fill this out. I typically review new applications once per day. Sometimes there are days when I don't get to it. I typically don't look look at them over the weekends either. But typically once per day, I go through any new submissions on this and get people added. So, and but yeah, like I said as well, just another thing I want to reiterate is this is an alive, dynamic, growing resource. So I might even add more modules at some point in the future, maybe have a FAQ section, maybe even have stuff that addresses, risk in different situations with different brands and different types of deals and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I guess y'all have what you need now as far as being able to actually go and review this course. So again, it's qcgc.io is the homepage for the website that you can go and apply to join if if you don't already have access to this. And then you can just click on the onboarding button in the menu to actually see this. There's also really briefly this button here, which is also on the website itself. So you can click on active deals. And it's not super pretty. It doesn't look as good as the website homepage or even the onboarding course. But again, all this is super new. So for now, it's just like version 1, getting something set up. And this is just basically has a Google Drive folder embedded on this page that shows the active deals. And you can scroll down to see the expired deals as well if you want to see examples of previous ones. But my goal is to be making consistent progress with this and to be constantly, improving the user experience and in whatever ways I can. At some point, this will probably look a lot better, but this is another thing you can look at as well. So let me see. What are the questions you got? Yeah, so Pauline just asked who on my team you guys should direct your DMs to on Telegram for different issues. So there's two main people on my team that help manage the group besides myself. So one, her name is Carmen, even though a lot of people think her name is Cece because her Telegram username is like Cece Project. But her actual name is Carmen. Either way, it doesn't matter which you call her, I guess. She wouldn't get upset at CC, but she's the one who typically posts all the deals in the reservation sheet and also like takes care of the back and forth communication with the group members and suppliers if there's any issues with like invalid cards and things like that. As far as questions about payments, that would be Raul, who's also in the group on Telegram. Um, I mean, sometimes people will just ask in the group chat, if they have a specific question, which is fine as well, and then one of them should get back to you. You can also send us an email just at the email that we use for all the submissions, which is contact@vitalibreLLC.com. And I'll share my screen again really briefly to show just where you'd actually find that email address. It's the same one that you would use to share your spreadsheet with us. So it's this email address right there. That's the main one we use for the business currently. But I just also want to, mention that the setup of how we communicate and how we respond to inquiries and questions about different issues, all that is subject to change. And I definitely do think that there's ways that I can improve how everything's set up. So at some point that might change and there might be a better and more organized system for like submitting tickets and things like that. Matt also mentioned, and this is very helpful too, if you have any questions about anything in particular, such as fraud, or fuel points, you can actually go into the group chat in Telegram, and there's just a search function. So you could just click search and then search for different keywords, and it'll pull up like any messages in the past when those keywords have, or that specific keyword has been mentioned by other people, and you can just sort through those. And at least on Telegram, I think it's not this way on WhatsApp, but on Telegram, if you join a group, and it depends on how the group owner has it set up, like you can see all the previous messages before you join. So it's not only stuff after you join, like you can join today and you can see stuff from the past, 2 years in the group chat. So you could, type certain keywords in there and find information on those. John was asking, how are we as sellers protected from potential buyer fraud for brands where it's not easy to check transaction history online like DoorDash, Uber, and Amazon? That's a good question. So there are a few brands where, like, I know at least with Amazon, I wasn't aware of this with DoorDash and Uber, which are brands that we like don't really sell that much. But I think also like Xbox and a couple other ones, you at least like can't really check the balance without adding it to an account, and it might be harder to check the transaction history. I mean, honestly, we launched an investigation whenever a customer comes up and says, "Hey, like this card's invalid," or there were funds missing from it, there's insufficient funds, or it has no balance, things like that. I mean, we launch an investigation and we look into it and get as much info as possible. And then we make a decision based on whatever the evidence points to, right? So there might be some situations where there might not be 100% conclusive evidence or data to determine like who used the card or when it was used. So, I mean, we just do the best we can. We get all the info we can, and we actually take enough time to make a decision once we have sufficient data versus like doing something, prematurely. And Molly was asking about submission dates. I mean, it's kind of on a deal by deal basis. Like there might be some deals such as Amex offers where we'll have a due date that gives people plenty of time to, order physical cards online and be able to submit them to us. But yeah, we also, and these instructions are on each reservation sheet. We also expect everybody to actually, when they submit, specify like which lines, they were reserving, or which lines they submitted that they reserved initially on the reservation sheet, and like which date it was for and things like that. And Christy was asking about how to ensure without bothering us that we received your submission. And typically we send a confirmation email once we submit cards, or once we process cards that you've submitted. But you can also check the spreadsheet afterwards, like, maybe give it a day, maybe 24 hours to go back and check it. And if there's a process, if there's a date in the date process column, that means that we've submitted it, or that we've processed it, sorry. We typically aren't processing submissions over the weekend just because, I don't require my team to work 7 days a week, because I want them to be able to have time to rest and recharge over the weekends. And, same goes for myself. So, typically if stuff is submitted after a certain time on Fridays, it might, be processed the following Monday, which is typically fine. It shouldn't cause any issues. Unless there are time sensitive things like fuel points where we actually have to, get those sent to our customers quickly, then we typically prioritize that and we'll just process whatever it is that we need to process. It's time sensitive and urgent. And everything else we'll leave for later. I think I addressed all the questions and comments in the chat. We've got a few more minutes, like 3 more minutes until I'm gonna have to finish this call, just because I'm gonna have to get out of the Starbucks because they're about to close. John asked how payments work. So typically we send payments via ACH. There are times when, like, if a payment is pretty low, like if it's $500 or less than that, or sometimes even a little bit more than that, if it's less than $1,000, we might send it through Zelle. Yeah. Okay. Typically we might send through Venmo or Zelle, but anything that's above $1,000, or at the very least 2,000, typically we send via ACH, just because obviously we can't, there's limits to what we can do with Venmo and Zelle. And if we're sending out, tens of thousands of dollars, or sometimes 6 figures of payments per day, we have to, do it through ACH. So yeah, if anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to ask. If not, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this call in a minute or two. But anything that you weren't able to ask during the call, or if you think of it later, feel free to ask in the group chat. Either myself or someone else on my team will be able to answer it for you. And, if and when I do another Zoom call at some point for the group, that would give you additional opportunities to ask questions and get an answer in real time. But assuming that no one has any other questions, I'll go ahead and close this out. But I really appreciate everyone, who was here for joining. And definitely open to any feedback of, stuff you liked, stuff you didn't like. If there's anything that you think is like was not included that needs to be included, or things that were irrelevant maybe, any feedback that you have is helpful, and I'm definitely gonna take in anything that I can so that I can improve any future calls. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and actually finish this. Appreciate that, Matt. Appreciate the vouch there. Go ahead and close this out. But yeah, lastly, just appreciate everybody for being here, and looking forward to doing more calls with y'all in the future. Gaurav, currently there's not a way to get a reminder of submission deadlines. Maybe that's something we could add in the future. So, but yeah, I mean, that's a good idea, and I'm open to any other ideas from anyone else. So anyway, I will see y'all on the next call, and I appreciate y'all being here.